listening to the Scoop Slam Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Podcast. We are back. Another week of wrestling to discuss, even though there's not a whole lot to discuss. But we got some fun little games to mix things up here as WrestleMania season is stalling. I don't really know. We're going to talk about that as well. So we got to do something to entertain ourselves because the wrestling product is not. But before we get too far into anything, as always, on the other end of the call, the co-host, historian, he's ready to take Triple H to task today. It's Ryan.
Yo, Micah. Great to be here, side by side with you. Another week, scoop slamming. How you been so far? Everything good on your end?
Pretty good. So an interesting week at work, but nonetheless, the Scoop Slam podcast must continue. We've only missed 1 week this year, so I'm really trying to do
consistent.
Yeah, we're trying to be consistent, and if any of you guys are new from YouTube, we appreciate you guys. I had a short that I uploaded over the weekend that has done really good over there, and I saw we got some new viewers and new subscribers. So if this is your first time checking us out, welcome in. But today on the slate, we're doing something a little different. Typically, we got Champ Contender Cut, but I put something out on Twitter the other day, and I made this up. It is in honor of it being March, and the NCAA tournament started today. We got a little March Madness of our own. We're going to rank the top 32 WrestleManias and then put them all into one and figure out what is the be-all, end-all best WrestleMania. So we got our own bracket. And if you haven't seen that already, check out our Twitter and Instagram. It'll both be there. So fill those out. Send it to us on Twitter or email or anything like that so we can see your bracket. And so what you think is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. So Ryan, let me tell you how I compiled these first.
Yes, sir.
Because they are seeded. So I was thinking, I could go to some Joe Schmo who ranked all the WrestleManias or whatever. But instead, I went right to the source, the just absolute culmination of all of the internet wrestling community.
Okay.
Cage match ratings.
Oh, no. You got this from Cage Match. Come on now. I thought you got this off the dome. Come on, man.
No, I didn't put any opinion in this. I was going to let you do the opinion part of it. So I took the cage match ratings. Now, if it was a 2-night event.
You know what? I figured that because there was no WrestleMania 27 here. I knew you would be a big fan of WrestleMania 27. And this got snubbed in our initial bracketology of the top 32 WrestleManias, right, Micah?
It did get snubbed. There's a couple stinkers in here, not gonna lie.
Oh,
but let me go ahead and start us off here. So what I was gonna say is if it was a 2-night event like WrestleMania 40 and most of the WrestleManias recently, I took their night 1 and night 2 rating and put them together, averaged them out, and so I averaged them in. But to start us off, Ryan, we've got the 1 seed WrestleMania 17 versus the number 32 seed WrestleMania 32. Now, WrestleMania 17 obviously main evented by Austin and The Rock. WrestleMania 32 main evented by Roman Reigns and Triple H.
Yeah, this is gonna be a blowout for me, Micah. Mania 17 had Steve Austin and The Rock, the pinnacle of the Attitude Era, colliding on the biggest stage of them all. Had a lot of great undercard matches. We had TLC 2. Was that TLC 2?
Yes.
And an underrated hardcore match with Raven, Big Show, and Kane. You had Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. It's hard to beat WrestleMania 17. Just by the historical aspect of it, too. WrestleMania 32, man, it was riddled by injuries. I don't know if you were watching the product at the time, Micah, but we had so many big names injured We had Orton injured. We had Cena injured. The main event was Roman Reigns and Triple H, man. And over the years, my appreciation for Triple H kind of grew, but nobody wanted to see Triple H in the main event 2016, man. And nobody wanted to see Roman Reigns as babyface in the main event in 2016. I think that WrestleMania 32 got highlighted. The highlight of the show was Shane jumping off the Hell in a Cell, and that's not enough to beat WrestleMania 17, man. So WrestleMania 17 wins in a blowout fashion.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. 33, I was already out of it, so I don't know that I've ever even watched that WrestleMania. But 17 is just it's the one seed for a reason.
Yeah.
But that brings us to our next matchup, which is the 16 seed WrestleMania 38, which was a 2-night event. So the first night was main evented by Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kevin Owens. The second night main evented by Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns versus the 17 seed WrestleMania 33, main evented by Undertaker and once again for the second time, the third time now actually, Roman Reigns.
Yeah, this is I don't know, man. WrestleMania 33 was a mixed bag for me. I mean, you had the return of the Hardy Boys. They had a great reaction, great pop, monumental pop. But then that main event, Undertaker and Roman Reigns, bro, it was the first WrestleMania I remember that I fell asleep. I just I couldn't stay up for it, man. It was getting late. I think it ended at like 11:30 our time. You had Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens in the undercard that really should have been higher. And you had a little bit of a good match with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar mixed in there. The set was probably the best set they ever had. The roller coaster type thing with the huge ramp. I mean, that was nice. But WrestleMania 38, it's weird. I thought it was a good show overall. The main event of Roman and Brock wasn't their best outing. I think they had a better match at SummerSlam that same year. And we had Seth and the return of Cody Rhodes. There was a really good match. We had some fun matches with Sammy and Johnny Knoxville and Pat McAfee versus Vince McMahon. I thought that was fun. And of course, Steve Austin in his first match back in 17 years. You know, WrestleMania 38, man, it's underrated. So I'm giving it to WrestleMania 38. And yeah, do you remember WrestleMania 38, Micah? Were you watching that?
Yeah, so this was around the time that I was really locked into AEW, but 38, I did watch all of it, and it feels like a weird, like now looking back on it, it feels like a weird bridge between WWE of the past and WWE of the new. Like there's lots of elements that kind of bleed into this new era, but they're still Vince. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You had Austin Theory as the promising up-and-coming star.
Yeah. I would still also say WrestleMania 38. So far we're 2 for 2. Now next up is the 8 seed WrestleMania 40, the most recent, versus the 25th seeded WrestleMania 13. WrestleMania 40 was main evented by Roman and Cody, obviously. And then night 1 was main evented by Roman and Brock versus Cody and Seth. I was shocked that this was 8 because I thought it was way higher on my personal list. WrestleMania 13, however, main evented by Taker and Sid for the WWF Championship. Notably, though, on the undercard, Steve Austin versus Bret Hart, that classic.
That was a classic, but it was also a one-match show, man. Bret versus Stone Cold was a great match, 5 stars. But when you go to the main event, you had Psycho Sid, and rest in peace, Psycho Sid. But Psycho Sid versus Undertaker in a kind of a forgettable main event, and the rest of the card, I don't remember. Do you remember anything else about that card? Was Rock? I think Rock faced. Was it Rikishi? Did Rock face Rikishi?
I was kind of right before this in my rewatch of the Attitude Era, or my first watch through the Attitude Era. So there's not really a lot of
Was it?
memorable feuds, but it was Rock and Rikishi. Triple H
Yeah,
was
it
feuding
was.
with Goldust at the time.
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson and the Legion of Doom, because they had just returned, faced the Nation without The Rock.
The crowd was hot for that because the Legion of Doom just came back. I think they were gone from the company for about 5 or 6 years at that point, and it was in Chicago, so they were rocking for the Legion of Doom in Chicago, hometown
Yeah.
boys. But not enough to beat WrestleMania 40, bro. WrestleMania
No.
40 arguably had the greatest main event of all time in the history of WrestleMania. It was kind of like WWE's version of Endgames.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, would you? I mean, it had the drama of everything you want in a wrestling match, with the Undertaker having a cameo and the final boss having a cameo and Cody Rhodes finally finishing his story. It's hard to beat WrestleMania 40, and WrestleMania 13 is not going to do it for me. So, yeah, winner WrestleMania 40.
Yeah. So next up, we've got the nine seed WrestleMania 22, which was headlined by John Cena and Triple H. Which, for me, one of the better matches on that undercard was Edge versus Mick Foley in the hardcore match. We referenced that last week during AEW Revolution. Versus the 24th seeded WrestleMania 7, which was headlined by Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, WrestleMania 22, man, had an underrated main event with Cena and Triple H. The crowd, this is the first time I remember the crowd completely turning on John Cena, which is ironic because we're going to talk about John Cena and the crowd turning on him later on. They had like you said, the Edge Mick Foley undercard hardcore match was great. They had probably one of the best women's storyline of all time on that show with Mickie James and Trish Stratus. Pretty good Money in the Bank. I think WrestleMania 22 overall is one of the hidden gems of that era as far as WrestleMania go. WrestleMania 7, I don't know if you remember WrestleMania 7, Micah, but Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter, it was kind of a forgetful match. The build-up was weird because you had Sergeant Slaughter turning his back on the United States, and they were booked for a big stadium show, and then they had to book it to a smaller arena show because the tickets were so lousy. And the rest of the card, was it Randy Savage versus Ultimate Warrior in that retirement match? They had I think that was that WrestleMania, wasn't it?
Yeah, that I
Okay.
was looking through these cards earlier, and WrestleMania 7, because I usually, like, if I got an undercard match on here listed, I usually try to get one from both events. There was
Yeah.
not one for WrestleMania 7. Like, it was a one match card, and even then, I wouldn't say that Hogan and Slaughter is
Well,
that good of a match.
it wasn't a good match per se. I think the build-up was, mixed per se. But Randy Savage and Ultimate Warrior did have a great angle at the end when Ultimate Warrior retired Randy Savage, and then it was Sensational Sherry started putting the boots to Randy Savage, and out of nowhere, Miss Elizabeth rushed the ring and pulled away Sensational Sherry, threw out the ring, and then Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth finally reunited. That was a good moment, but it's not going to beat WrestleMania 22. So yeah, WrestleMania 22 wins and blowout fashion.
So next up, we've got the 4th seeded WrestleMania 24, which is headlined by Undertaker and Edge, but most notably on the undercard was Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels in his retirement match, versus the number 29 seeded WrestleMania 12, which headlined by HBK versus Bret Hart in the Iron Man match classic.
Yeah, we're on upset alert here though, Micah, because WrestleMania 24 with Undertaker and Edge at the top. I've never been a big Edge fan. I thought the match with Undertaker and Edge was kind of overrated. I know a lot of people say it's a good match. I disagree. You had the Floyd Money Mayweather match versus Big Show, which was odd, but it was very entertaining and one of the best celebrity matches they've ever done. The Ric Flair Shawn Michaels match was really, really good. But it kind of got tainted over time because Ric Flair came back, and it was, you can't really consider that his retirement match, since his retirement match came 15 years later when we were there and his actual retirement match. So I don't think it can beat WrestleMania 12, man, because WrestleMania 12 was officially Shawn getting handed the baton to run with it and a 60-minute Iron Man match, which kind of gets overhated online. I feel like the match was 60 minutes, but they had a pretty good match, man. I mean, they've had better matches, but Brett and Shawn in a 60-minute Iron Man match, you can't have it any better as far as a bell-to-bell wrestling match goes. I mean, yeah, Iron Man matches, they tend to you tend to look at the clock here and there and you're not really paying attention. But I think the undercard with Roddy Piper and Goldust and the Hollywood backlot brawl was really entertaining. And as far as like a historical aspect goes, I think WrestleMania 12, I'm putting that over WrestleMania 24. So yeah, winner WrestleMania 12.
Interesting. I would personally say WrestleMania 24 just because I feel like I can go back and I like the Undertaker Edge match. I also love the Shawn Flair match. I get that it's tainted, but dude, there's nothing else on the WrestleMania 12 card, and I am a big Shawn Michaels fan, but the Iron Man match, the finish, I think bothers me the most. Great match.
You got to look at historical aspect though. That match though, Micah. I mean, it officially kicked off the Shawn Michaels era.
It is. I mean, that's true.
And it planted some seeds of Attitude Era with that Goldust Roddy Piper backlot brawl. I think WrestleMania 12. I mean, that's one. When you look back at it, that's one of the WrestleManias that were pivotal to the making of the Attitude Era.
Well, on this historical note, Ryan, I've got one for you next because I'm interested to see if you hold that same opinion. Next up is the 13th seeded WrestleMania 28, headlined by Rock versus Cena in the first showing. Plus on the undercard,
once in a lifetime.
Yeah, we promise. Plus Triple H versus Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell was on the undercard versus the 20th seeded WrestleMania 3, which headlined by Hogan and Andre, but on the undercard also has Steamboat versus Randy Savage.
Yeah, 28. It had some strong matches on the card. Like you mentioned, Rock and Cena, I thought that was their best match overall together. CM Punk and Jericho probably had the better of all of the three matches. And then you had Taker and Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match that I don't think ages well. I don't know. It was good in the moment, but once you see it a couple times, the near falls don't hit the same. But then when you get to WrestleMania 3, the historical aspect, like I was just talking about earlier, Mike. I mean, if WrestleMania 3 doesn't succeed, we're not talking right now. I mean, it's just facts. I mean, that they needed WrestleMania 3 to succeed. And if y'all ask any old time fan that doesn't watch anymore, they'll always bring up Hogan slamming Andre in front of 93,000 in the Silverdome. And you had a lot of wrestlers, a lot of, Ruthless Aggression era wrestlers, a lot of early PG era wrestlers. They always say their favorite match is Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man. So, I mean, the historical aspect of WrestleMania 3, yes, it did have like 17 matches on the card, but I think you got to put that above WrestleMania 28. So, winner WrestleMania 3.
That one's a toss-up. Like, genuine, I could be swayed either way, but I definitely see what you're saying about the historical aspect. We move to, and I'm pretty sure I know the result on this one, the 5-seed WrestleMania 30, which is obviously headlined by Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Orton, or 28-seed WrestleMania 25, Triple H versus Randy Orton in the main event, which we all know was a stinker. But on the undercard, you've got the Taker-Shawn match, which is arguably one of the greatest matches of all time, if not the greatest, and probably the greatest WrestleMania match.
Yeah, you just laid it out like that, Micah. I mean, 25 had one of the greatest. I think we we did a watch along with Shawn Michaels and Taker, that first match they had.
We did.
But I mean, you look at the rest of that card, they had an entertaining Money in the Bank match with CM Punk going back to back. You had Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy, which they never seemed to have great chemistry together. They stunk it up. And of course, Randy Orton versus Triple H in a match that should have been no holds barred. They had a regular wrestling match, and the crowd was dead silent for it. So yeah, WrestleMania 25 not the greatest showing, but WrestleMania 30, man, WrestleMania 30 had everything you could want. It had surprises. It had the feel good moment with Daniel Bryan celebrating at the end with 2 titles, beating Evolution all in one night. You had the streak getting ended by Brock Lesnar, which it was a garbage match, but still though the aftermath. I mean, you never forget where you were at when you heard that Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker. And yeah, they had some decent matches. Bray versus Cena was a decent match, and the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was fun. You had Cesaro, and Cesaro finally winning something meaningful. So yeah, WrestleMania 30, I feel like it's gonna beat WrestleMania 25 in a blowout fashion.
I'd have to agree with you there, even though I do love the Shawn Taker match. Next up is the 12-seeded WrestleMania 23, headlined by Shawn Michaels versus John Cena, versus the 21-seeded WrestleMania 18, headlined by Triple H versus Chris Jericho. But on the undercard is Rock versus Hogan.
Yeah, WrestleMania 23 it's an odd one. The first time they were back in the stadiums in 5 or 6 years at that point. They had the Battle of the Billionaires with Vince having Umaga as his surrogate versus Donald Trump as Bobby Lashley was his surrogate, which was the match was there, but it did do the biggest numbers in WrestleMania history as far as pay-per-view buy rates go. And yeah, Batista and Undertaker stole the show that night. They actually went on way early on in the card. It surprised me as a 9-year-old boy that they went on like third from the top. It was very weird. But yeah, WrestleMania 23 was some odd WrestleMania. Don't think it ages exactly so well. I think Great Khali had a match with Kane in a lumberjack match, and Khali brought out like a hook type thing and choked out Kane. It was a very weird WrestleMania all around though, Micah. WrestleMania 18 did have, in my opinion, one of the greatest matches in wrestling history with Rock versus Hollywood Hogan. I think Cody Rhodes says that it's his favorite match of all time too. But they had the electric Toronto crowd. You had a lot of star power on this show, Mike. I mean, you had Steve Austin versus Scott Hall. You had Undertaker versus Ric Flair in a pretty decent match overall. And yeah, the main event kind of got it stunk it up, which it's a theme in these Triple H main event of WrestleManias. Huh? But yeah, I'm going with WrestleMania 18 just by the electricity that Toronto crowd had for Rock and Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah, another upset. I was very shocked to see 18 that low, but this really represents the cage match disparity because I'm sure they hate Hogan Rock on cage match. But like you said, if you ask like a Cody Rhodes, that's his favorite match. And that's because it's not necessarily about the moves, it's about the fan interaction. And that is such a interesting match to watch. It's just two Goliaths of the industry going at it. So I would also say WrestleMania 18.
If you turn the volume down of that Rock Hogan match, you are thinking like, what? This is a great match. But when you turn the volume up, man, it just changes the experience altogether.
So next up, we've got the 2-seed WrestleMania 19, headlined by Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar, notably under Rock and Austin was also on this show, versus the 31-seed WrestleMania 29, which, again, once in a lifetime, for the second time, John Cena versus The Rock on the undercard, CM Punk versus Undertaker, which I think is one of Taker's best Mania matches.
Yeah, the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era, as far as I'm concerned. Brock Lesnar beating Kurt Angle in the main event. And Brock Lesnar almost killed himself with a shooting star press in that main event. They had a really good match, too, as far as matches goes. And Steve Austin versus The Rock one last time. Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho in a really good match. You had
Great match.
McMahon. Yep, Vince McMahon versus Hulk Hogan in a street fight match. Bro, overall, I think star power, if you stack this card against any other card, as far as WrestleMania go, this thing washes everything else. Like, how can you got probably the biggest star of all time with Hogan on it? You got the second biggest star with Steve Austin on it, third biggest star with Rock on it. I don't see how you can do any bigger than WrestleMania 19 as far as star power goes. Lesnar on it, Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio was on the undercard. Like, come on, man. Like, and then you got WrestleMania 29. Oh man, God bless WrestleMania 29, man. Undertaker had probably his last great match against CM Punk on this card. And then after that, you had the debuting Fandango beating Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Need I say more? Rock versus Cena twice in a lifetime. I wanted to be hyped for it. I really did, because it had the WWE title involved. But yeah, that match needed CM Punk. Rock got hurt early on, and then it just became finisher kick out spam. And I know we make fun of that a lot nowadays about finisher kick out spam, but you go back and watch that Rock Cena match, bro. It is legit finisher kick out spam. Like, I don't know if Rock just couldn't do anything else, so they just relied on old reliable rock bottom attitude adjustment. But yeah, man, that match was abysmal. The crowd was dead. And yeah, did anything else happen on that show?
Not that I remember. I would definitely say go watch the Punk Taker match,
Oh yeah.
because you can like feel how pissed off CM Punk is, and that he went out there with the mentality that I'm gonna have a better match than John Cena and The Rock, and he absolutely did.
Yeah.
It was
Should have
great.
beat the streak. Should have beat the streak, actually.
Yeah, and the angle was great too.
It was, yeah.
But following that, we have on the slate next the 15 seed WrestleMania 37, headlined by the first night Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, the second night Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan, versus the number 18 seed WrestleMania 8, headlined by Hogan and Psycho Sid. But on the undercard, you've got Flair versus Savage.
Yeah, man, WrestleMania 8, the WrestleMania that we could have had Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan in the main event, but they just didn't go there. So yeah, well, missed opportunity as far as matches goes. And yeah, man, that card just isn't. It just doesn't stack up well when you look back at it. And no matches in particular were great. I mean, the Macho Man and Flair match it was fine, but I think WrestleMania 37, it was the first in-person 2-night WrestleMania, wasn't it?
I believe you're right.
Okay, and Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and Edge, they had a pretty good triple threat match. Roman, of course, stacked them, pinned them, sent them to AEW. But the Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks match that they had on night one was one of my favorite women's matches that they've ever done, actually. And yeah, they finally crowned Bianca as a world champion. And of course, they had the debut of Bad Bunny, Micah. I know you're a big fan. Old Bad Bunny, multi-platinum recording artist, Bad Bunny. Turned a lot of heads that night. Pulled off a Canadian destroyer, which still doesn't sound right to say, but yeah, Bad Bunny had a pretty good showing at WrestleMania 37. So yeah, man, I think WrestleMania 37 wins in a landslide, blowout.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Mania 8 was even this high because that show, like I looked at the card, it was abysmal outside of Flair
Yeah.
and Savage. We move on to one that I predict will have a very far run for you specifically. The 7-seeded WrestleMania 20, headlined by Benoit versus Shawn Michaels versus Triple H. Also on the card, Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. And they are up against the 26-seeded WrestleMania 36, headlined by Drew versus Brock on night 2. And on the first night, Undertaker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match.
You know, this is crazy that WrestleMania 27 didn't make it, but WrestleMania 36 did. Like, can we even count WrestleMania 36? It happened in the warehouse, man. Do you count that one?
I mean, I guess
It's so
I do
hard
like the
to,
Taker match.
yeah, I mean, I like it, but it's so hard to rank this Mania because I mean, it was like a fever dream. They did the
Yeah.
best they could. I don't fault the wrestlers or the booking, but I mean, you had no fans. Like, it was just so weird to have these matches in an empty warehouse, bro. Like, they had a ladder match, and man, it was a tag team ladder match on this on that card, man. But it got snake bitten right before the match because somebody got isolated, somebody got COVID. I don't know what happened, and so it just turned, instead of a tag team ladder match 3-way, it just turned into a 3-way ladder match, and they were competing for the tag titles with only 3 superstars involved. It was such a weird Mania, bro. And then the main event, you finally crowned Drew, but there was no fans. You couldn't appreciate the moment because it was nobody there, and it was a squash match. Basically, Brock didn't really get much offense in. They had probably the 2 best cinematic matches of all time, but still, do you really count that as actual matches? I mean, you can really say those are segments. As far as WrestleMania 20 goes, though, stacked card, bro. I mean, you had Eddie versus Kurt in a really good match. Evolution versus the Rock and Sock Connection, which was a really good match too. The Garden was rocking for the Undertaker's return as the Phenom, the Dead Man. The first time in 4 years at that point that they seen the Dead Man. Undertaker and Kane, they had a good match as far as Undertaker and Kane matches go. And Brock Lesnar and Goldberg wasn't the best. I mean, they got booed out the building, but it was a great spectacle to see them getting booed out the building, and probably the best triple threat match that we can never talk about again with Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. And Chris Benoit finally fulfilling the 19-year odyssey and winning the world title and sold out Madison Square Garden. You had Eddie and Chris Benoit hugging, and that emotional scene at the end that we can never see again. But yeah, man, WrestleMania 20 just that. I mean, we're just stacking them up side by side. They blow out WrestleMania 36.
Yeah. 20 I think will go far for you.
Oh yeah.
Next up on the slate, we're down to the last 5 matches. We've got the 10-seeded, funny enough, WrestleMania 10, headlined by Bret Hart versus Yokozuna. On the undercard, you've got Shawn Michaels and Razor in the ladder match versus the 23-seeded WrestleMania 2000, headlined by Triple H versus The Rock versus Mick Foley versus The Big Show.
Yeah, WrestleMania 10, they were moving into the new generation. Bret Hart wrestled twice on this show, had a 5-star match with his brother on the first match of the show. And this is one of the rare WrestleManias that it actually had 2 like 5-star matches on it. The Razor versus Shawn Michaels ladder match is, I mean, you can't do much better as far as a one-on-one ladder match goes. And yeah, man, Bret finally beat Yoko in the main event, Madison Square Garden. As far as WrestleMania 2000 goes, man, it was just multi-man matches everywhere. So many multi-man matches. I think this is the first WrestleMania that they did not have a singles match on the card. It was nothing but multi-man matches.
That's so crazy. I mean, they had a very inflated roster at the time too, but
Not enough for
jeez.
multi-man match. Yeah, it was just overbooked. convoluted, so many hardcore matches, it was a pretty entertaining ladder match. That was the first three-way ladder match that they ever had with the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and Hardys. That was
Yeah.
great. But the main event, the first time a heel has won in the main event of WrestleMania was WrestleMania 2000. Of course, it was Triple H. The booking of that match, a lot of people at the time, bro, were McMahoned out. It was just McMahon in every corner. Shane, Linda, Vince, Stephanie, they were all involved in that main event. And yeah, it got a little convoluted there towards the end. But no Steve Austin on this show. So yeah, WrestleMania 2000 ranks pretty low for me. So I'm giving the nod to WrestleMania 10 here.
Next up, we've got the 3-seeded, which I thought was really high, but it is a good show. 3-seeded WrestleMania 21, headlined by Batista versus Triple H, against the 30th seeded WrestleMania 6, headlined by Warrior and Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, the first time WrestleMania goes Hollywood. The vignettes and the commercials leading up to the WrestleMania 21, it's still etched into my mind because those were so entertaining. And the WrestleMania 21 card is underrated as far as WrestleManias go. That whole 2021 22 stretch, they had some great manias, man.
Yeah.
This WrestleMania 21 kind of kicked off one of WWE's era because they had Batista getting crowned against Triple H, and they had Cena. They had his crowning moment on that same WrestleMania. Ray kind of came into his own in this WrestleMania. Edge finally broke through the glass ceiling in this WrestleMania. As far as like if you look back at something that capped off a single era, I think you can say that about WrestleMania 21, man. It was a great show overall. WrestleMania 6, the Ultimate Challenge, Hogan versus Warrior. It's probably Warrior's best match, but after that, I'm struggling to find anything else that happened on that show. Do you know anything offhand, Micah? Can you help me out?
Not offhand. I mean, I'm
Okay.
sure I could look something up, but it was nothing memorable.
Okay, well, the Ultimate Challenge, they had a hot crowd in Toronto. Ultimate Warrior was supposed to pull the sword from the stone and be the guy to carry the company into the new era, but it kind of he couldn't cut the mustard, Micah, so they went right back to Hogan in less than a year. And so, yeah, I'm giving the nod to WrestleMania 21 here.
Yeah,
No
I think that one's
disrespect.
pretty easy.
Yeah, no disrespect, but yeah, WrestleMania 21 wins here.
Down to the last 3, Ryan. Here we go. The 14th seeded WrestleMania 26, headlined by Taker and Shawn Michaels one last time, versus the 19th seeded WrestleMania 14, headlined by your favorite Shawn Michaels, again versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, WrestleMania 26, Undertaker, Shawn, main event, rightfully deserved, emotional match. Shawn retiring, kind of got, diluted a little bit later on when he came back, bald in Saudi Arabia. You don't want to look back at that, but Undertaker and Shawn, man, great match. Chris Jericho and Edge, they had a pretty good to decent match. The build-up wasn't the best. You had a pretty lackluster match with Vince and Bret Hart, which had a great build-up. So Jack Swagger winning the Money in the Bank, that was WrestleMania 14, man. They kicked off the Attitude Era. The Austin era has begun, as JR said it later on that night. Steve Austin beats Shawn Michaels. Shawn takes a little retirement after Steve Austin beats him, and you had the first WrestleMania match, Undertaker and Kane, which a lot of people say they had one of the greatest storylines of all time with Undertaker and Kane, the long lost brother. And yeah, man, they never had great matches together, but the storylines they had always been top tier. You had a pretty entertaining dumpster match in that WrestleMania card. I don't know if you remember that. New Age Outlaws versus Terry Funk and Mick Foley. And yeah, man, I think Owen Hart had a good match with Rock. Was that Rock he had a match with? Was that Triple H?
I think it was Triple H, but
Okay.
I'll fact check you on that one.
Okay. Well, they had the entertaining match, and of course, who who can hate when Pete Rose got tombstone by Kane in that on that night, man? That just makes the whole night for me. Yeah, WrestleMania 14, I think that's gonna beat WrestleMania 26 here just by the magnitude, the history making of that WrestleMania.
Yeah. It was Triple H, by the way, of course,
Okay.
because he's made so many appearances in this segment. The final two,
Yes, yeah.
the 6-seeded WrestleMania 31, headlined by Roman versus Brock, but interrupted by the high Seth Rollins versus the 27th seeded WrestleMania 34, which again headlined by Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns.
No. How many times is that?
I think it's
Headline
the
3
third.
times? Okay. Okay, yeah, man. WrestleMania 31, a show that going in you thought was gonna be lackluster, but then they had one of the best manias of all time. Probably had one of the greatest RKO counters of all time with Seth going for a curb stomp and Randy countering that into an RKO. Great moment. And you had Rusev versus Cena, and it was an okay match. But I think the actual main event of the show, Roman and Brock probably had their best one-on-one match, singles match together on that show. And the huge moment at the end, the heist of the century, something that nobody was calling, something that nobody's ever done. Somebody cashing in on a match while the match was going on, and in the main event of WrestleMania. Yeah, man, it was just a great moment with a great match. And yeah, fans got what they wanted because nobody wanted to see Roman Reigns win the title that night. And Seth Rollins actually saved the day for once. WrestleMania 34, man, very weird show. You had the return of Daniel Bryan on that show. First time he wrestled in 4 or 5 years at that point. And you had Undertaker squashing John Cena on that show. I don't know if you remember that, Micah, but
Very
John Cena,
odd.
very odd build up to that match because Undertaker didn't even make an appearance until that night. And so Cena just called him out week after week. And then Cena said that he was going to be in the crowd for WrestleMania because he didn't want to miss it. And Cena was just, having beers with the fans all night until a referee came over and whispered in his ear that Taker was there. And he, in dramatic fashion, ran to the back to put his gear on. And I think Braun Strowman won tag titles with a 10-year-old that night. I don't know if you
Yep.
remember that, Micah. Yeah. I think did Penn Balor lose his IC title that night to Seth?
Believe so.
Okay, all right. Well, and then the main event was that Brock and Roman again?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, all right. That
That's why
went
I
way
thought it
too
was
long.
very funny these two
Okay.
got seated next to each other.
Okay, and that was their worst match, and Brock Lesnar retained, which nobody thought was gonna happen. Roman bled buckets, and the whole crowd booed it out the building. I've never seen a main event of WrestleMania just get utterly shat on like it did that night. So yeah, man, WrestleMania 31 is gonna beat WrestleMania 34.
And lastly, the 11th seeded WrestleMania 39, headlined by the first night Usos versus Sammy and KO. Second night Roman versus Cody, Part 1. Versus the 22 seeded WrestleMania 35, Becky versus Ronda versus Charlotte.
Yeah, old Becky Mania, Kofi Mania, the longest WrestleMania in history, man. WrestleMania 35. I swear to God, Micah, this show was legit 7 hours long.
Oh
This
my
was the show
God.
that broke people. This is the show that made people say, okay, we need 2 nights because we can't do this every year. The crowd was so dead for the Becky main event versus Ronda and Charlotte. They unified the women's titles that night. It was a botched ending with the pinfall, crucifix pin. Ronda threw her shoulders up last minute, which, I mean, what the heck is that, man? It's the main event WrestleMania. What are you doing? The Kofi Mania was great. one of the few times that I teared up watching a WrestleMania match or wrestling match in general, man. Kofi Mania, he was grinding for 15 years and finally gets his opportunity. Daniel Bryan was a great heel to have as opposing the New Day and Kofi Kingston. Probably one of the last great storylines that Vince McMahon booked, man. It was just great top to bottom. They changed midway through as far as the direction of that WrestleMania goes. Kofi wasn't supposed to be in the main event that year, but injuries and such derailed other people's push. As far as Triple H and Batista had a very weird match and a very weird build up to that match. It was Batista's last match, and I don't know, man. Triple H makes another appearance as far as very bad WrestleMania matches go. And I don't know anything. Kurt Angle had a retirement match against Baron Corbin, bro. I should have just started out with that. And we should just end the conversation right then and there.
Yeah.
And WrestleMania 39, maybe it's recency bias, but it had some great matches top to bottom. They brought back the vignettes for WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, which we were all advocating for. They did it. And probably the greatest tag matches that I've ever seen with Sammy KO versus the Usos. One of the more shocking moments was Cody losing Roman Reigns. And they had their best match, but it was a very shocking ending. And Gunther had a barn burner with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre that doesn't get talked about enough. Rey Mysterio and Dom, great storyline, really good match. Made Dom a star in that one night. This was a great WrestleMania overall. I think this is gonna go far in the tournament, but right now it's gonna stomp out WrestleMania 35. And yeah, man, winner of WrestleMania 39.
Well, ladies and
Oof.
gentlemen, we are done with the round of 32. So next week we will spend less time on it because it'll just be the Sweet 16. We'll finish it up the next week, Elite 8, Final 4, and the eventual championship of the WrestleManias. But I hope you guys enjoyed that trip down memory lane. Just some fun stuff to do during March. And typically, we wouldn't have to do this during WrestleMania season, but the build to this current WrestleMania is questionable, to say the least.
Yeah, let me get a sip of this Sprite Zero, Micah, because that set tired me out. Yeah, it's been something.
It's worthy of question. Now, obviously, we've got one thing from SmackDown to talk about, one thing from Raw to talk about. I think that's the most you've talked pretty much uninterrupted on the podcast.
Yeah, man, it was I had so many notes for this, man. I didn't want to give it all away because I know we're gonna talk about the same things next week. But yeah, it was fun to do. I can't wait to go back and watch some of these WrestleManias.
Yeah, it did make me want to watch some. And if they keep on with the current build to WrestleMania, we may have to do some watch-alongs. But
just stream that on TikTok.
Yeah. WrestleMania Rewind. But this leads us to Friday Night SmackDown from the past week. Really, the only thing to bring up is the Street Profits defeated DIY to win the tag team titles. I said it's a shame that the Street Profits aren't multi-time tag team of the year winners. These guys are so talented. This match was very good for a TV tag match that I was not looking forward to at all. And it's just really a shame. I do think they're trying to take strides and go in the right direction with the tag division on SmackDown. Like, they're making it unpredictable, I think, and that's the best thing you can do with a tag division in today's day and age. Way, way, way far gone are the days of the Midnight Express and Rock and Roll and Heart Foundation and all that.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing you can do is just make undercard tag teams and keep it unpredictable. Don't keep anybody with a hostage over the belts. But I am glad the Street Profits won. I thought it was a good match.
Were you as shocked as I was when they brought up that this is the second title reign the Street Profits have had? I could have swore they were multi-time tag champions, bro.
Oh, I didn't even hear that, but I would have been.
This is the second title reign they've had on the main roster. Like, how crazy is that?
That is
the first
criminal.
This is the first time in 4 years they've held tag titles.
That is ridiculous. And they really haven't done it. They were with Bobby for a little bit, but other than that, they have not done anything but be a tag team.
Yeah, I was so surprised that they didn't break these guys up 2-3 years ago. Like, the fact that they kept these guys together for so long is crazy in itself. Because we talked when we first started this podcast, bro, we were always singing the praises of Montez Ford. And then it seemed like they were gonna go somewhere because I feel like he had a run in the chamber, and it felt like he was gonna be a breakout star after that. And then he just did nothing. He floundered. And like you said, they paired up with Bobby, tried to make these guys heels. But like we seen Friday, bro, the fans don't want to boo the Street Profits, and they didn't want to boo them when they got paired with Bobby either. So I think they're fighting a losing battle by making these guys trying to make these guys heels. It was a great moment for the Street Profits to get that tag title win in front of a hot crowd in Spain. But Micah, does it seem like they're going in a multi-man direction for tag titles for WrestleMania? Does it seem like that?
Oh yeah. I feel like we're gonna get either a tag team turmoil or like a four corners match or something like that.
Are we building to another ladder match? Because they did that last year.
Oh, I could see that.
Bro, how many multi-man matches are we gonna get for this Mania? Are we going to WrestleMania 2000?
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, it just feels like we're getting 2 triple threat matches and a fatal 4-way match for the U.S. title, and a 4-way match for the IC title, a 4-way tag team match for the tag title. Like, how many multi-man matches are we gonna get on this card, bro?
I don't know. The only 2 singles matches I can think of are the Jay Gunther match and the Cena Cody match.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll talk about the build a little later, but yeah, man, it was good to see Street Profits win, I guess. DIY will never ever get a reaction, no matter how much Triple H loves these guys. They just don't get reaction, bro. I don't know what to tell them.
I think it's just
It's so sad.
Yeah,
he loves these
I
guys.
really do feel bad for him because I mean,
He loves
they do good work, but
there's a disconnect though.
yeah. At least they're getting paid, man.
It's like Triple H trying to push Carmelo Hayes, bro. Like, it just doesn't work. I don't know, when you match up against the actual guys that look like they can whip somebody, like Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, and a Randy Orton. You put Carmelo Hayes and Johnny Gargano up beside those guys, bro. They look like they're like children next to them.
Yeah, especially Montez and Randy, because Randy looks like he could eat Carmelo Hayes, and
Dawkins
Montez is
too.
Yeah. Well, Dawkins is big, but Montez is cut. Like, he is very fit. And so to put him up against DIY, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, be serious, bro.
Yeah. Well, they talk about the way Eric Bischoff talks about Sting at Starrcade 97 is the way that DIY actually looks.
Okay, yeah. Well, Ciampa looks okay.
Yeah, he has somewhat of a crazed, deranged look, but that brings us to Monday Night Raw, which really, just like SmackDown, a one talking point show. The return of the most dastardly heel of the last 20 years. John Cena cut his first heel promo in 25 years, pretty much. Or not 25, but 20 years. And, I thought it got off a little rocky at first, but the ship was righted. And I thought John did an excellent job here. I thought it was great. And I thought his talking points, I do wish he was a little bit more evil than bitter, but his talking points make sense. I mean, we just talked about WrestleMania 22, the first time that the fans really turned on him, and that was not a foreign concept, it kept happening over and over again. So for him to finally, veer into this and use that as fuel is a very interesting take on the heel turn.
Yeah, no matter how much those kids online want to tell you, but John Cena was hated for a very long time. And yeah, man, the fact that John Cena brought up that, that the fans been bullying him, he was right. But I just think that he was wrong about the timeline here, because fans they've universally loved him for the last 5 years, Micah. Did it seem like he should have cut this type of promo 10 years ago to you?
Oh yeah, 100%. That was the time to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But
It was a great promo.
Yeah, I guess it still works. But that's what I was saying more with like the evil. Like, I kind of wanted him to be like, y'all always thought this was about you, and you thought my retirement run was for you, but this is for me. Like, I'm with The Rock now. Like, I'm going to Hollywood after this. But I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm still the guy in professional wrestling, and I always will be.
I mean, it's a good angle that they can go, or a good storyline route that they can go here, because Cody Rhodes, man, he's been pushed and pushed and pushed as the number one guy in the company, and he's 1-1-1, and the fans haven't turned on him. But when that same thing happened with Cena 15, 20 years ago, the fans turned on him. So I mean, they can go down a very good route here. He can turn this back on the fans and say, well, when I did this, you guys hated me, but now you love Cody. They can do some good stuff here.
Yeah.
But I think the ball was dropped by they didn't even bring up The Rock, man. Cena didn't even bring up The Rock here.
Yeah. And he's like the catalyst for the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's very weird to not bring that up.
Yeah, they didn't bring up Rock, and Cody came out and didn't lay foots into Cena, bro. Like, he got beat mercilessly. He got beat within an inch of his life with Cena and Travis Scott and Final Boss. He got beat bloody, and he came out and just, you're a whiny bitch, and that was it. He just walked away.
And the end to me was so weird that, like you said, they just walked away, like for no.
Yeah.
They didn't like you said. I mean,
he had to get up out of there. Cena was about to cook him, man.
Yeah, and it was a very odd ending. I do think the segment overall was
long.
good.
Went long.
It did go long. I'm also typically not a fan of the insider baseball terms, like when he said, "This, I'm not a babyface, I'm not a heel."
Yeah.
I typically don't like that, but I thought it worked well here because he's talking. I mean, he's like he says, "Or heel, I'm a human," and that was kind of what he was going for. Was he was trying to be like, "Look, I have feelings too. Like, I care about what you guys say about me," and for years. It's all been this negative. I also like that he was like, and I finally reached the mountaintop, and then I won, and I won some more, and I kept winning. And he was like, and what else was I supposed to do? Lose? So, because I mean, that's the real like sports aspect of it. Like John Cena, why would he want to lose?
Yeah, he called us ungrateful, and he broke up with us live on TV.
He did. He called us abusive.
He did, and he called out that little kid. That was hilarious. When I went to that little kid at the right moment. He was wearing the Cena merch, and he just looked so dejected.
All I could think about was the 50 Cent clip where he's like, "What'd he say F me for?"
The crowd reaction overall was great. They gave him a great reaction. Well, as far as, they actually gave him a heel reaction, which is what you want. You don't want Cena cheered. And the fact that so many people were saying that he needs to change his music, he needs to change his attire. And for maximum heel heat, Micah, he didn't do any of that. And I love that, man. I mean, maybe it's disappointing that he didn't change any of that, but he's a heel. You're not supposed to like what he does.
And the funniest part about that is because I texted you and I was like, man, I wish he changed his theme. And you texted me and you're like, maybe he'll do it next week. And then literally right after that, because we were watching the promo live, and he was like, I'm not changing anything.
Well, never mind. Hey man, that was appointment television for me too. I was at work, bro. I didn't go back on my break. I just stayed in the break room to watch that promo.
It was, I will say this, I had multiple people texting me, and it was at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like everybody was glued to that segment. Because, I mean, and that's how it should be for a Mania build for the main event. Like, you've got to know what he says. And that's why I thought this was or the segment as a whole did well and was received well. Cody, to me, kind of came out and cut the generic, I want you at your best, which I get. Like, you're supposed to be the Superman, like, you want the villain at their strongest because you want to prove your strength. But
why would you want that, though? I would want somebody sick, down, on their deathbed. That's when I'm attacking, bro.
I mean, yeah, but like for the macho hero of it,
Dumb
you want to beat them. Yeah, basically, dumb babyface syndrome.
The elite syndrome, where everybody's friends and everybody wants everybody at their best, and they want different versions to face. Yeah, man. Just when he said that, I was like, oh my god, he's cutting the generic Young Bucks promo, and and it sounds so prepared. It didn't sound off the cuff. At least Cena sounded legitimate when he was cutting his promo. I'm starting to get sick of Cody Rhodes' cadence of his promos. I'm not feeling them as much as I used to, bro. I'm starting to see right through them.
He needs a little, like, I was really hoping this feud was the one. I thought his feud with KO was good, but it's still not like the landmark, like, I remember this feud in this run. Like, and I was really hoping this one would be it, but to me, like, nothing has really topped his promos from when him and Roman were having to face the first time. Because those Cody promos were, I mean, they were hot, and they were like, he looked like he was ready to kill somebody, and he was all, juiced up and all that. I mean, he was pissed, and he should have been. And I just don't, like you said, I don't get that same feeling, especially when they beat him bloody in a stadium, and that was, they left him for dead, basically. And all you have to say is, I don't want this version of you. I want John Cena. Like, okay.
Well, it seemed like that version beat the heck out of you, bro. I mean, I don't know. That version seems pretty dangerous to me.
Maybe that's why he wants the other version. See, a little reverse psychology for you there.
He wants Super Cena, bro? I don't know if he wants that.
I don't think he wants that either.
You remember what Super Cena did to the Nexus, bro?
Oh, God. I saw somebody rank his power level according to his t-shirt color, and somebody was like, the most egregious one is that you left the purple shirt off because he killed the Nexus.
He did. Purple shirt Cena did kill him.
But, and I think that kind of encapsulates this WrestleMania build as a whole, and we talked about all the multi-man matches, and we'll get out of here in just a minute, but the feuds, it just don't feel like there's any real, like, fire behind them. Like, Punk isn't on the show, Seth isn't on the show, Roman wasn't on the show.
Oh, no, Seth was on the show, but he didn't say anything. He just said that he's going to be on the show next week.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. Then you got the Jay, basically. And honestly, I wouldn't be upset if he wasn't on the show necessarily, as long as I got Punk and Roman.
Yeah.
But the Jay Gunther stuff, it doesn't feel as hot as it did like a month ago, and it's starting to get dislikes on like YouTube and stuff. And I know the internet community, wrestling community, is a minority in and of itself, but it just feels like it isn't Mania season. And that's why we did that WrestleMania bracket, because it's like, dude, there was two things to talk about this week. And Dynamite was the same way, but they just came off of pay-per-view, so I can give AEW an excuse for having a lackluster TV show. I can't give WWE an excuse like a month away from Mania.
Yeah, we got to start. We got to start questioning Triple H's booking, man. He's the matchmaker. They got his name at the end credits at every show. Like you said, man, Jey Uso, Gunther started out very promising the first 2 weeks, but they have been spinning their wheels the last 3 or 4 weeks. Jey Uso being chummy with the Alpha Academy. Like, come on, man. He's friends with these jobbers. Why is he rubbing shoulders with Tozawa during WrestleMania? And yeah, A-Town Down Under, man. I feel bad for Austin Theory. He got jobbed out in 30 seconds, and Jey Uso proceeded to, I don't know, man. He didn't do so well that night with the he tripped over the top row. And I like
top
Jay,
dollar
man.
action.
I like Jay, man, but yeah, this build isn't doing him any favors. I still think that he deserves that Mania match against Gunther, but the creative is failing him the last few weeks or so. They've been doing the same thing. Gunther says he's gonna make his life a living hell, which means I guess sneak up behind you every week and give you a sleeper hold, because that's what he's been doing the last 5 weeks. And the 3-way match with the ladies, Io, Rhea, Bianca. I think do you need a 3-way here? I don't per se. I don't want to see it exactly. The contract signing was very convoluted, with Rhea somehow it being legally binding that she's part of the match now, which I don't know if you remember this, Micah, but they did the same thing in the lead up to the triple threat match with Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels, when Chris Benoit was the #1 contender because he won the Rumble. And Shawn Michaels had unfinished business with Triple H because they had a double count out in a last minute standing match at the Royal Rumble that year. So Shawn Michaels came out, super kicked both those guys during the contract signing and signed his name, and that's how it became a 3-way. But Triple H is redoing his angles, which is pretty funny. But still, I don't think you needed a 3-way match with the ladies. I think
it was also weird because Rhea came out and she was like, after everything was signed, she was like, oh, I'm just coming out here to watch, like you were watching my match. Why didn't she come out 10 minutes ago? Like, that was so weird timed, especially for that to be her opening line on the mic.
Yeah, she's starting to get exposed too, man. But I don't know if we have time to talk about that right now. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, I agree, man. It was just very convoluted. The rest of the Raw show was, it was there. Mania build so far has just been lackluster, man. Over on SmackDown, Tiffy versus Charlotte. Have we even talked about that since the Rumble? What is there to talk about?
I have no idea. I genuinely have not. There is nothing from a segment that I can remember other than that Swanton dive that we talked about off air.
Yeah, Randy and KO. KO just came back to TV after Randy came back and beat him up at Chamber. KO just came back, bro. So he was gone the last 2 weeks too. Like, it's just so many. We need to do something about these contract structures, bro, because there's no way that we can justify not having these big stars and the big moments during WrestleMania season. Like, if you got a certain amount of dates that these big stars like Cena and Punk and Rock and Roman, if they can do a certain amount of dates throughout the year, make them during WrestleMania season, bro. Like, we're getting has Roman appeared more than 2 times since the start of the year on the weekly shows? I don't think so.
I don't think so. And then he comes back and isn't on the following SmackDown or the following Raw. He's on the next SmackDown. Like, dude, can you imagine if we had a Raw for 4 weeks straight, or SmackDown, or even if you spaced it all out, but just a month of Cena, Roman, Punk, Rock, Drew, like, even if The Rock just showed up every 2 weeks, Cody, KO, Randy, like, this is star-studded, dude. it shouldn't be this way right before Mania. And I tried to say this back a couple weeks ago on TikTok, and everybody just wanted to they wanted to get their copium out and say, "Oh, bro, just let Triple H cook, bro. He always knows what he's doing." Like, okay, I'm still allowed to make criticism, and I think it's time that we're due some criticism for this Mania build. Now, Granted, last time I criticized, we got that Cena segment at Elimination Chamber. That was great. But where have we went since then? And we are, what, literally a month away? Like, there's not a lot of time left, and the time is now. No pun intended.
I don't think that segment at Chamber is above criticism, because as soon as it happened, the hottest thing in wrestling, Micah, they turned the heat down. You didn't get Cena for another 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
So I just, Triple H isn't above criticism, man. I know we've been fans of him. He's won Booker of the Year twice for us, or maybe once from us, because I think you gave it to Deadlock guys 2 years ago. But I digress. Yeah, man, Triple H, he's got to get taken task for this. He's still got some time, 4 weeks until Mania. Not starting next week. Is it 4.5? I think it's 4.5 weeks. Okay, 4.5 weeks to Mania. So, I mean, maybe he can't turn it around, but right now, this Mania build is looking like the weakest in the Triple H era, man. I wouldn't be dying to go see this WrestleMania.
Nah.
Like, there's nothing pulling me to go see this WrestleMania, especially in Vegas with all the jacked up prices. I'm waiting, man. I give him the benefit of the doubt, but time's ticking. Like, turn the heat up, bro. Time to eat. Can't let it simmer forever.
Well, we're gonna turn the heat off of this show. We'll be back next week. Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown, all that good stuff, and we'll see if it does get any hotter, and if it don't, we're gonna be back turning up the heat on Triple H again. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, make sure you check out our socials, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. Link in bio. Tell your friends about us. Tell your family about us. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourself. Come back next week. Have a good one.